Yiftach and the terrible tragedy where Yiftach was from the highest high to the lowest low. He was so excited about coming from his terrible background and his so sad upbringing, and now he comes and he becomes the leader of the Jewish people, and he's victorious in this amazing battle, and he comes back on this tremendous high, and he makes a promise to Hashem. He's going to bring the first thing that comes out of his house as a carbon to Hashem, assuming there's a medrash, which today I saw a lot of different midrashim about what was going on. The medrash says that he had a favorite deer or a gazelle that he liked very much, and in his mind he's going to bring that as a carbon, which goes back to what the Chachamim always talk about yiftach. There's this mixed approach to him. On the one hand, Chachamim say yiftach kedoire keshmol bedoire. Even though he was the lowest, you have to treat him like Shmuel and Novi, meaning he is the Rebbe, he's the Nasi. On the other hand, they constantly puts him down and says the Amoritz, and some places they're very, very harsh the way they speak about yiftach. So they say in this detail as well that he didn't even know that you can't bring a deer as a carbon. Carbon can only bring from the three species of cow, goat, and sheep. He didn't know that either. But he was assuming his favorite animal would come out, will bring that as a carbon, and he was on a high, and the Mefarshim say he was also hoping to create a Yom Tov, right? That's everybody knows that the joke goes that some anti-Semite, whoever it was, making sodas to the Yidden, and a Jew once told him that he was talking to him, and he says, "I know when you're going to die." So when are we going to die? You're going to die on a Jewish holiday. So the anti-Semite says, "How do you know? How do you know Jewish holiday? You're a prophet?" So he says, "No, whenever you're going to die, it's going to become a Jewish holiday." So similarly, Yiftach was hoping that this is going to be a Yom Tov. There are many stories in Tanakh that are celebrated, many stories that are not celebrated. Yiftach was hoping this victory of his will turn into a major celebration, and he'll be the first one to celebrate, the Yom Tov Purim. The first one that actually made the Yom Tov happen is Yiftach with this carbon he's going to bring. And from this amazing high, he falls such a terrible tragedy when he sees his daughter comes out, that we saw the last time, and we saw we just read it quickly, the last few psukim, where he comes home. Remember, he's just this mafia attitude. Whatever I said, I keep my word 100%. And his daughter understands that. She just asks for 2 months to go to the mountains and to cry al psulai, me and my friends. And he lets her go. She comes back, and then the pasuk says he did to her his neder. What was that? But pashtus, it means that indeed he killed her. And the pasuk concludes, "V'hi lo yadai," she had never married anybody. The pasuk then says, "V'tehi chayk bi Yisrael," which just continues with the next passage, which we didn't read last time. But b'cholifin, this is the way the story is learned in Pshudish al Mikra, and this is the way the Chazal discuss the story. And the big question is, did Yiftach, was it right for him? Was it wrong of him? What should have happened? Could have been done? So there's a lot of discussion about, a lot of discussion, to the point that it's such a hard thing to fathom that there's a whole different story that the Mefarshim say. Meaning, but in general, when it comes to explaining Tanakh, so there are things that Mefarshim say that you can, so to speak, fill in the gaps on your own, and then there are things which only Chazal can do. We spoke about this by Shimshon, like making up new details, bechlal, only whole new details of the story, only Chazal can do. Yet over here, many Mefarshim do what Chazal do. They basically rewrite the story in a way against what Chazal say it literally happened, and many of the Mefarshim say a whole different story. They point out originally there's 2 proofs to what they're saying, or 3 proofs maybe. One proof is that when he originally made the neder, when I said the story, I said it, any animal that comes out, I did it because that was his intention. But really, he said, anything that comes out of my house when I come home, v'hoyo la Hashem, v'halisiu oilo. It'll be to Hashem, and I will bring it as an oilo. If it's to Hashem, it is an oilo. What are the 2 things? So they say that he really had 2 intentions. His intention was, if it's going to be an animal, it'll be a carbon oila. If it won't be an animal, if it'll be a human being, I'll dedicate it to Hashem. And then that's also proven by, it doesn't say that he brought her as a carbon. It says, Vayas los nidre asher nodar. What is the neder? Dedicating her to Hashem. And the pasuk also adds afterwards, V'hi lo yada ish. If he killed her, then obviously she never married him because she's dead. What's the chiddush? So that's because of these 3 details. The Mefarshim say something else, which is also tragic, but not nearly as tragic, and that is that he built her a tower, and the rest of her life she remained a prusha. She, for the rest of her life, remained a prusha. She remained in this tower and all secluded. He would send her food and drink, and she spent her whole day in the, what's it called, the solitary confinement. Thank you. Solitary confinement, all alone for the rest of her life. And the pasuk stresses she never got married. Now the next pasuk also, I didn't read, I'll read it now. The pasuk says, Miyamim Yamima, which the Mefarshim said, read it together. Vatehi Chayk B'Yisrael Miyamim Yamima became a rule for forever, for the next few years. That Teilachna B'nois Yisrael, the daughters of the Jews would go, Lesanois Lavas Yiftach Hagilodi, to cry and wail with or to or about the daughter of Yiftach, Arbas Yamim Bashana, 4 days a year. According to this, what's the 4 days a year? So according to this pshat, it also fits. That 4 days a year they would go and meet her, and they would sit and they talk to her, and they would tell her what's going on in the world out there, what's happening, that there's they're telling her that Mefarshim say, what women like to hear about, who got married, who had a kid, who's going to get married, what's happening out in the world, the regular Yentashaf. That's what Mefarshim say. They told her it could be a deeper conversation that they had about life, or maybe all of her insights that she came up with over the last 3 months, she shared with them. It was a fabrengen. But this story is also very tragic, and this also is considered wrong. Now, why is it considered wrong? This is a lot less wrong than the first story. Why would this be considered wrong? Because a person is not supposed to spend his life secluded. A person has to dedicate his life to serving Hashem. But we do find people that did the same thing. Who knows if someone did the same thing? Nobody. David the Melech got married and had a family. He's married more than once. Huh? Rabbeinu Gershom had 2 wives too. Who was someone that dedicated his life and didn't do Teilim Hazeh? Shmuel HaNovi. That's what you mean. Shmuel HaNovi is one good example. Not a good example, 100%, because Shmuel HaNovi did get married and did have children, but his mother dedicated him to Hashem. Shmuel HaNovi, since he's a young boy, 2-3 years old, he spends his life in the Mishkan, constantly serving Hashem. His mother basically made the same promise that Yiftach made about his daughter. Huh? What? I'm going to get to that in a moment. Yeah, according to one opinion, the Gemara. I'll get to that in a second. But I'm surprised Meir doesn't know. Makara? Huh? Benazai. Meir does know. So I'm not surprised. Benazai is the famous story. Zalman Nuba. Someone wants to give other people a chance. The Gemara says about Benazai. There's 3 opinions about Benazai. 2 opinions, meaning. There's 2 opinions about a certain thing that he said. There's 3 opinions, but there's 2 opinions. Either that he got married and he got divorced right away because he didn't want to be involved in the worldly matters. But according to the second opinion, he never got married. He never got married because he said, Ma'esa shanafshi choshka b'Torah. So Chassidus explains that Benazai was a unique character, and it's not what everyone else should be doing. It was only for Benazai. So it could be that the daughter of Yiftach was also on such a great level, or because of the story, she was put on that level. But it's obviously not as bad. And again, Shmuel Novi is not a good example. It's a good example, but it's not accurate because he did get married and have children, but Benazai didn't. So according to this, it's something similar. But it's still wrong because Yiftach can't force his daughter into it. That's what we find. Benazai was his own decision. Shmuel was his mother's decision, but it wasn't that he can't get married. Here was his forefather's decision, but it makes the story a lot less scary. But regarding this, the pshat, the pasha, the pshat, which Chazal say, so like he said before, the questions are, first of all, regarding the 4 days a year, what's that all about? So it all goes to the question: was there any obligation on Yiftach's part to fulfill his vow? Yeah.
Did nobody try stopping it?
That's the question. No one tried stopping it. So first of all, was there any obligation? So Chazal say, definitely according to halacha, there's no obligation. Yeah?
How is that dedicating her to Hashem?
She's not involved in Gashmis. She's spending her life only thinking about Hashem. When you get married, you have a family, you have to deal with mundane things. Here, you're completely focused on Hashem the entire time. You probably give her a siddur and a tilim and just a tilim and not non-stop. There was a story in Sefer HaZechronis, the famous, what's the guy's name? With the blindfold, the Parush, what's his name? Not Velvel. Handel, I think Handel, no, that's his name. The guy that had blindfolded his whole life and just said to him non-stop, day and night for his whole life, huh? Not Five-ish, maybe Five-ish, I don't remember his name. The guy that the Parush came and tried killing him, and then the Parush got to go to move his hand. What was the story, yeah? And then the other guy the guy that defended him was whipped and nothing happened to him. So that guy didn't get married. What did he do his whole life? Tillim, non-stop. Tillim the whole day. And had someone walking around. He barely ate and he barely drank and he barely slept and just Hashem his whole life. So Yiftach's daughter probably did the same thing. And 4 days a year, they got brachas from her probably. Huh? Mefarshim are the Ibn Ezra, the Radak, the Ralbag, they say this pshat, that he didn't actually kill her. But Chazal said he killed her. Chazal said that he killed her k'pshuta, just like Akedah Yitzchak could have happened, and other stories. So again, we'll just go through the different details over here. So Chazal all agree that there is no obligation. So if anybody makes such a neder, the next guy walking into the room, I'm going to punch him out. No, according to Chazal, you have no right to punch him out or do anything worse to him. According to Halacha, there's no such thing as making a vow to kill somebody. That's for sure not an option. There is a machlokes,
Killing, no. Punching, yes.
punching also not. The same idea. However, there is a machlokes. Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan said he did have an obligation to give her value in money as a donation to Hashem. Meaning he had to give whatever, and in those times there was a slave market, so how much should be worth on the slave market, he had to, the equivalent of that in money, to give that as a donation. That's what he had to do because of this neder. But Rish Lakish says, no, there's no need for anything. However, he himself thought that he's obligated. Now, regarding his daughter, there's also different ways of looking at it, what she wanted. According to some opinions, his daughter was trying to convince him that it's wrong, that he doesn't have to kill her. And according to some opinions, his daughter supported him. She says, yeah, it has to go ahead. Another detail is that it says that his daughter went down to the mountains. What's to the mountains? So some Farshim say she went to Sanhedrin. She went to Rabbanim, asking Rabbanim, what's the halacha? Is my father meant to kill me or not? Now, what did they respond? So here's also two ways of looking at this. Many different details over here. In this particular detail, there are two ways of looking at it. One way of looking at it is that the Rabbanim thought that he was obligated to kill her, and they couldn't find a heter. They felt that this is a neder, this is what has to happen, and there's another prat that they mentioned, is that Yiftach and his daughter were thinking to themselves, why did Hashem make this happen? Such a great thing, why does she have to come out? Probably Hashem wants her to become a carbon. That's what Hashem actually wants. Why did Hashem set it up this way? And because Hashem set it up, it has to be this way. The Gemara also compares it to Eliezer Eved Avram. Eliezer, when he came to the well, the famous story of Rivka, what did he say? Next girl that comes out, if I ask her for water, if she gives me water on the camel's water, then it's good. What happens if she's going to be a terrible person besides that? Maybe if the Gemara says, if she's blind or deaf, maybe she just happens to be a good midrash or so, would you let her marry Yitzchak that way? What happens if she's from a bad family? So Rashi tries to forewarn this, but some say, over there, Eliezer said, I tried and whatever Hashem gave me the right thing. So Yiftach said, this is what Hashem wants and his daughter wants. And Sanhedrin agreed that the neder is binding and they have to. However, other Mefarshim say, no, other Mefarshim say that the Rabbanim knew that the Veder is not binding. But they didn't believe that Yiftach's actually going to go ahead and do it. They said, nah, nothing, it's okay. And she was asking, what really, is he chayiv or not? Laws up, it's fine, don't worry, it's not a problem. They were pushing her off because they felt that it's not a big deal because really it's obviously it's not binding, and they were, so according to one opinion, Adarabah, they said it has to happen. According to the second opinion, by them it was so not an issue, they didn't even bother to go and speak to Yiftach and explain. They were just saying they're pushing her off because for sure Yiftach's not going to do it. But then the question was, who was the Rebbe at the time? So the Rebbe in this sense was Yiftach, but who was the person that had the biggest Ruach HaKodesh at the time, who was still alive then? Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas was still around. Now, we said this is 300 years later, but the Torah clearly says Pinchas was around at this time. So Pinchas was still around, and Pinchas had Ruach HaKodesh. So why didn't Pinchas try to send a message to Yiftach and tell them, hello, they shouldn't do this? Question is also the other way around. Why didn't Yiftach go himself to ask Pinchas? He should have discussed with Pinchas of what should I do over here? So Chazal answer, again, this is the way the story is portrayed, it ends up being not so nice. Chazal say that Pinchas and Yiftach, they both suffer from ego. They both suffer from ego. Who is going to come to who? Is he going to come to me or am I going to go to him? And Yiftach said, well, I'm the warrior, I'm the general, I just won Klal Yisrael. I have to go now and speak to someone else. Let Pinchas come to me. And Pinchas said, I'm the Kohen Gadol, I have the Ruach HaKodesh. Let Yiftach come to me. So this is what Chazal say about Pashas. Most people say the story as is. Both things I don't understand. Because Yiftach was a tzad. Pinchas was clearly a tzad. There's no questions about Pinchas. Pinchas is now playing ego games. And Yiftach I don't understand because ego games are in, ego games are here. This is your daughter's life on the line. You're going to so because he has to come to me. Fine, you don't come to me. I'll just kill my daughter and that's it. How does that make sense? So both stories, both ways are not so understood. Rabbi Jacobson has a whole class on this, and he tries making a whole pshat. He says sometimes a person's ego is so important he'll sacrifice his children. He gives examples of it's a class to a woman, so he deals with a lot of all the problems. So he says a lot of times couples get into fights, and then they use their children against each other. Because it's all about the ego that I have to get it back at my ex, whether it's the mother or the father, the wife or the husband. And even though my children are going to suffer from it, a lot of times it's yedua that they play their children against each other. So it's, you start child suffering. Yeah, but I have to get back at him, so it's worth it. So what you're saying is true. That's why he has a whole arichas he tries to bring out. There's a nice lesson of Eidos Hashem that sometimes people are so stubborn about something, and because of that they can sacrifice their own children. Which bichlal that this is a word that many Mepharshim talk about over here about this concept is that when someone is simple and he's too frum, that could be dangerous. Someone that's frum and knows how to learn is very good. But a guy is too far frum and he doesn't know the halacha, so his frumkeit is like Yosel Goylam and just pour more water and then never stop because that's what I have to do. So in the sense, again, it's clear that Yiftach wasn't the biggest Talmud Chacham. That's clear. It wasn't Shaykh. He never had a proper upbringing. So he didn't know the halachas of Ataras Nadarim. Also, some people say that he thought that if I would have made the Tanai originally, that if it's my daughter, I won't be chayav, then he thought that'll be fine. But now, I'm changing my mind now. I can't change my mind before, which, like we said, is a mafia mentality. The word is you can't change anything afterwards, so he wasn't willing to find any kind of a tailing. So, but this concept is that because he's so far from that this is what has to happen, so that's why we end up this terrible thing that happened. What I want to try to make it more realistic to be understood is that it's a combination of Yiftach's thinking that this is the right thing for sure. Now, to go and speak to Pinchas, like, what's the point? And nothing can probably change. So why should I go there? You see many stories of people that they asked the Rebbe for a bracha, not Lubavitchers, and the story begins how they went to many doctors and other rabbis, and there was no way of saving their child, and finally they had nothing but to lose, so they went to the Rebbe also. And the Rebbe gave them a bracha, and then there was a Yeshua, whatever the story. So many stories begin like that. I would imagine that there are many stories that begin the same way, but don't end the same way. I'm sure many stories where a person had tried many things, nothing worked out, and he told him, go to the Rebbe. He said, the Rebbe help. I'm not going to go. And then there was talking about, there was no Yeshua. So I would think that by here, Yiftach was the same thing. Like in Yiftach's mind, nothing like, I'm not breaking my word. A vow is a vow. I'm obligated to do so. Hashem wants this to happen. So what's the point? It was a Pinchas, what could he do already? So it's not like a mamish, an ego thing, but you can already imagine how it's going to happen. It's like when someone's, like the verse says, on Lezer Tatum had a word that he said, that many people, when they had Nabach Yena Machler or anything like that, any internal diseases, even though it's terminal, the terrible things, they would ask the Rebbe for brachas. And the people with stories, the tumor is disappearing and heart starting to work and all that. Huh?
Yeah, when it's not like you, not you, when someone's daughter, I feel like we're more like,
So listen to the verse on Lezer Tatum. He said, but you don't have people that their child was Down syndrome and they go to the Rebbe, can you make my child healthy? We don't have people that the child has the leg has to be amputated. Go to the Rebbe, can my child grow a leg? Why not? If the tumor can disappear, the Rebbe can make the person healthy from Down syndrome to not. And if a person is missing, the Rebbe can give a bracha and Hashem can do anything. So he said the reason why that didn't happen is because people don't really believe. Because when it comes to a tumor, things that are not visible, so people say, you don't see what's going on inside. So I didn't see it till now. I should weiter not see it. But when I see an actual thing, people are not going to ask for such a bracha. Even though it's their own child. If their own child, they're still not going to ask for such a thing because it's nothing to do. So even for the people's own child, like I said before, I'm sure there were stories of people that were not Chabad or anti-Chabad, and the child was lying on their deathbed, and the doctor said there's no way this kid surviving, and the doctors have experience, and what's the point in asking for bracha now? It's not going to happen. So the stories that the people said, what do I have to lose? But there are stories that people said, there's no point, and I'm not asking for a bracha. I imagine that could have happened. And I imagine that was more Yiftach's reasoning. Again, I don't know if it's true, but to me it makes more sense to say the story like this, that he couldn't believe Pinchas could help. It's still considered an element of ego. Chazal say it in such a way, because for it, you should have gone to the Rebbe no matter what. Like any Lubavitcher would go to the Rebbe no matter what. Any Chassid would go to the Rebbe no matter what, no matter how bad the situation would be. Chassid would have the first thing you go to the Rebbe. But at least later on in the story. And on Pinchas' end is the same idea. Pinchas, back to what Chachamim said, what the Sanhedrin said. Pinchas was also saying to himself, come on, Yiftach is actually going to go and kill him. He's not going to do such a thing. He knows that it's wrong, it's not a big deal. So Pinchas should have gone on his own. So Pinchas felt, what's the point of going to him? He's probably not going to do it. I have to go and warn him. It's like sometimes there are certain rules in yeshiva. You have to tell the bacher again what to do. Come on, he knows what he has to do. And then and Bachman proved you wrong. But so Pinchas, so Yiftach proved Pinchas wrong as well. So that's how you can learn this part of their argument between each other about what they were trying to do.
Comes to the previous question. Hashem likes human sacrifices.
If Hashem likes human sacrifice, yes. So Chazal bring about this story that Hashem, there's a pasuk later on in Tanakh where Hashem says, "I never asked Yiftach to give his daughter as a sacrifice." Hashem was against it, even though there are other places where it happens also. According to Yiftach, it was the right thing. Now, according to the opinion that it was that he actually killed her. So, according to that, again, with the loya the ish, as obvious, whatever the question is, what's the 4 days a year? What's that all about? What's the point in that? So, according to that, it's basically to raise awareness. Yeah, today I was this past Shabbos, I was in a shul somewhere, and someone was talking about that their daughter ran a marathon to raise money for a certain organization. So the rabbi there is saying, I don't understand, what's the point of running a marathon? Just to give tzedakah, and that's it, what's the point? So I didn't mix in, I was just a guest, but what's the answer to the question? The answer to the question is that today there are campaigns galore, right? Every other day, everyone, my campaign, and a plug for our campaign, everyone should still chaparayim, maybe we can hit what's it called? 6 digits. Maybe we'll make it. Hopefully, at least. We have now enforcements came in now. Maybe they'll support, but they have other obligations. They have to make other campaigns. Yeah, if you check statuses, every other status is another campaign, and some people post 2 or 3 campaigns on their own statuses. It's please safe. So the mail, no one yiftach. Okay, fine. Yeah, $18 or nothing or whatever. However, when there's a marathon being run, so it becomes a whole ma'aseh. Everyone's checking the marathon, and that's a lot more. It's a lot more awareness. So because of that, more people will participate. So it's the reason why you do these things is to raise awareness. People should know about it. People should talk about it, and hopefully people give money to it as well. And it works if it's happening all the time. In 2 years from now, first time was a campaign, now it's a charity auction, marathon. We're going around the postal track. We're going back into the Korah. Who's sponsoring my trip to the Korah? Some Bachmari sponsored. How much you sponsor? For your own ride, you sponsor this amount of money, so we'll sponsor all the rides, all the marathons. That's the way you're making money. Now, Kalpanim, the pshat over here is that they wanted to raise awareness. That the other girls, they didn't want the story to be forgotten. They wanted to raise awareness that when someone's too frum and doesn't know how to learn, he makes problems, he makes mistakes. They wanted to raise awareness that when any kind of vow that you make, any promise that you make, do not kill your daughter. Do not kill your children. As much as you think it's frum and holy, not. So they wanted to raise awareness. So they made a system, 4 days a year, we're going to go. It doesn't say where they went. According to the first shot, they went to visit her, wherever her tower might have been. And they also, it doesn't say how often they brought her food, any details about that. That has to be, either they brought her every 3 months, a supply for the next 3 months, or messengers came on their own. Doesn't that mean that the Mefarshim have to come up with their own interpretation? But according to that, he for sure went to visit her. But according to the pshat that he actually killed her, then 4 days a year was to cry about her, to raise awareness. Everybody should know that this is what happened. The story should not be forgotten. Never again. Everyone should remember what happened. It should be never again. And this way, it should raise awareness. And eventually it died out. Eventually the message was accomplished. Everybody knew about it, and there was no concern it should happen. And that's why eventually it stopped. So those are the 2 ways of learning this. Like I said, there's tons of more midrashim over here of opinions of how to say this whole story. And then there's also the Kabbalah aspect. The Kabbalah aspect is Gilgulim. The Kabbalah says that Yiftach and his daughter were a Gilgul of Zimri and Cosbi. Zimri ben Salu Nesibi Savla Shimaini. So he was the one that married Cosbi Basur. And then who came and killed them both?